everyone. Please drop a quick hello in the chat if you are here and listening to me. Look, most of you are smart, hardworking, and great at your job. But a second tough conversation comes up, asking for a hike, or saying no to extra work, or handling someone who pushes you. Your brain go into overdrive. You start planning 10 pages of mental script in your head. And the moment the other person says something unexpected, you freeze, start blabbering expectations, just back down completely, and you don't know what is to be done. So in next few hours, we are going to not turn into a rude or aggressive person, but we try to create something called scriptless confidence. What is that? I'll come to this. But now, when I'm saying this, the first step of learning this confidence is to tell your anxious and overthinker brain, shut up, brain. Let me handle this. So, let's get started. So, what's the problem? The problem is the smart people over prepare and panic when things go off script, which means every single time you try to think a little extra about what you are going to present, that becomes a problem. And you think you are doing the smart thing, but here the overthinking enters right into your mind. How many of you are the ones who read just before the exam starts? Do you remember your childhood days or college days when you are studying and studying and studying? And even when the exam was supposed to start at 10 a.m., you are reading and revising every single thing till 9:59 a.m. Do you remember your childhood? Now, this was something to confirm and hook to that anxious mind saying, I'm doing my best. And I know that if I remember this, this would be staying in my mind. But what if I say that much of anxiousness is not required in the real world? And even for the exams, but forget about the exams because your childhood is already past. But right now, if I let you know that this anxiousness can be managed in such a certain way that you build a real time constant confidence instead of relying on the memorized lines. So, what's the first step over here? We have to shut down the internal panic before speaking. Simple, isn't it? Now reply in the message box or put a comment in and tell me where do you feel the most stressed during a confrontation? Now I'm talking about confrontation. How many of you think confrontation is not easy, man? It is like putting a very heavy box on my head where my words do not come out of my mouth at all. Now let me give you some options so that it would be easier for you to remember what are those places. Because it may be all of them, maybe one few of them, or maybe something which you don't even remember. So what are those? Number one, salary hikes and workplace talks. The negotiations about your salary hikes when you are giving an interview, or the workplace talks where you have to put your opinion in, and you have a background noise which is saying like, you know what, if you say more about this person would feel bad. If you say about this technical thing would go on list. If you will say this, then this would happen, this would happen. I don't know, my personality is not that kind of a thing, and I'm just a technical person, I cannot think beyond it. And those kind of excuses we start giving ourselves. Is it something that is you? Then put A and tick it. The next thing is setting boundaries with families and friends. So, how many of you think that sometimes you have to force yourself to listen to the other person? Even if you are trying to speak or share what you want to say, they are not even listening. And it either end up having a very big fight, or else you just surrender and ignore whatever they are saying. In both the situations, the other person loses their trust because they feel and they can sense it that you are not listening. But certainly, you became so good at pretending that sometimes they just feel like, okay, you are there, that's enough. I'll just speak and blabber. But it doesn't give you a space to feel energized. So they end up getting energized with your silence, and you get a brain with not even listening and forcing yourself to avoid the talk or even not coming to your ears. How many of you feel that way? Put B and pick it. Third one is dealing with a broken trust. So many times what happens is our own friends or someone else, they just say something and they forget about it. But it hits hard to us. It feels like you have not done what I expected, the bare minimum. And when it comes to bare minimum, we start questioning everything, whatever they say. And then they feel like why you are staying away, why you are being pushed back by yourself. And we are drowned in overthinking, and those thoughts are coming back to back, that even if we want to stay away from that, we are not able to do that. And still, because we cannot confront, that becomes a big challenge for us to break that relationship or give it a pause or even confront them like this is something that I'm dealing with right now. So let's clear it up. If that is you, then write C and tick mark it. The last one is about unexpected pushbacks in public or meeting, which means whenever you are trying to pitch in, you are not an extrovert. Even if you are an extrovert and you are trying to make a pitch with what interests you, what not, or even an introvert who is trying to make their pitch by stating the right facts, and suddenly somebody just take over the conversation, or you are just dismissed with the words, "Oh my God, don't talk about it. It doesn't make sense." And you feel like you're blacklisted immediately. You are the person who doesn't even need to be there. What the hell has happened over here? My existence is in question now. And you don't want to fight. So you say, okay, I'll take my glass and I'll just step away from here. I'm not standing there because so insulting. They have dismissed me. They have insulted me. So if this is you, then put D and stick it. Okay. So let me know how many of you feel that any of these are the ones which does cause an overthinker's trap. When I look at your responses, what I feel is almost every single one of you have experienced it some way or the other. And that's true. That's human, right? Because we are meant to be that way. We are meant to think and overthink up until the time we confirm ourselves like, okay, let's go with this plan. But the problem is, the plan is a plan. It's not an execution. Probably you end up saying something very, very different from exactly how you wrote that plan after thinking so much. Does this happen to you? Is this something where you know a difficult conversation is coming and your brain thinks it is helping you by over preparing? You rehearse the argument in the shower as well. You write down the exact sentences. Imagine the worst case scenarios. While you do that, your mind tells you if we plan every single word, no, nothing is going to be wrong. Now, if I would say that's where you have to stop and you have to say that just for a way you are writing a script for a movie where the other actor doesn't even know the script. And that's exactly I wanted to say as well. It's like a movie where the director have asked you to be in a role and the director have asked another person to be in a different role. Now you are preparing a script of an imaginary scenario with complete confidence. However, the other actor probably is not even thinking about it. They are like, okay, I have an interaction or a handshake with this person, but apart from that, I don't have any script. I don't have to say any dialogue. And you have prepared the whole script. And you are thinking that this is the way the person would speak to me, this is the way how I speak to them, and when they give an unexpected reply, your whole script, your whole plan crashes. So the point is, any person who is good at confidence, who is good at confrontation, they don't have any better script because you are writing very good script. But the problem with you and them, the difference between you and them is how you are looking at it. Instead of thinking about how the other person thinks versus how you are going to get it done. So when you try to think how the conversation would go, it's like a train running on track. But if you know that I have to reach that destination, somehow I'll manage it when it is coming to me because I'm confident in my preparation. So I don't have to create a scenario in my mind. Maybe I'll practice some or the other way, but I'll be so comfortable that even though my track is not straight and sequence or perfect, I'm still reaching my destination because that is my motive. My motive is not engaging into the scripted conversation, and that's called as execution. So even though you have a script, you have a plan, but execution is something that makes much more impact rather than just having a plan. The vicious cycle of thoughts basically stops us to think in a certain way. It stops giving us perspective. It keeps repeating into certain worst case scenarios and we even don't know where we are held up. And while doing that, we always utilize the best of our time to end up getting it wasted. Now, how to get out of it? How to get into the arena of execution? Alright, so I'll help you with this. And for this, there are three arenas of execution. If you want to write it, just pick your pen and paper or the notepad because this is going to help you a lot. In next 1 minute, you would be getting to know the places of execution where the overthinking can be untrapped through these arenas. Shall we go ahead and look into the arenas now? Yeah? Alright. The arena number one, the workplace. Imagine you are sitting in an appraisal meeting. Okay, you are working and you are sitting in an appraisal meeting, or probably asking for a project deadline extension, which means you are leading something, you are responsible for something. Okay, you make your request. Okay, you said like, okay, this is how I'm looking at the appraisal, or you are saying like, okay, I want to extend this project deadline by this thing, and you just said that you completed your sentence, and then there is a silence in room. And immediately, because you are still into the trap, your brain panics. Oh no, my boss is angry. They'll think that I'm a greedy person. Say something quickly to fill in the silence. And then you start rumbling. I mean, only if the budget allows, otherwise, it's totally fine. You know what you have done right now? Congratulations, you have just given them a reason to say no. Oops, what just happened? That's exactly how our brain works. If we try to create a script of everything, we try to fit in every script the way how we want it to be. And it is not going to end in a positive way unless we practice it more and more. So if you are a planner, an overthinker, probably there is a chance where you ramble and you give one reason for them to say no to you, while they are just thinking like, okay, how I can solve the problem for this person who had spoken his mind. So next time, whenever you are at such an arena and when this uncomfortable silence happens, mentally tell yourself, shut up, brain, silence is totally okay. And then probably you have to just convey your message very confidently. The way how you did it was pretty well. But you have to make yourself more confident in terms of what is it, what is it, how. Okay. Now, gradually, instead of giving a statement, you can end up with a question and then stop talking. How that could be? State your point clearly. Based on my work this year, I expect a salary adjustment of this. What is the process for this? Okay. Now, by ending the statement with question, you have given an opportunity to explain. So now they'll come up with their own thoughts. So they are not coming back to say yes and no to you, which is a closed answer. Instead of that, they'll explain how you can reach over there. Okay. So when you end up your statement with a question, what is the process for this? And then stop talking. Then the awkwardness is not yours. They handle the awkwardness of silence. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now, few things to keep in mind because we are talking about workplace as an arena. Workplace mistake number one, filling uncomfortable silences with unnecessary apologies. So we have seen the case one where we were trying to ask for something and then we are saying if it is okay then fine, I don't have any problem. That's exactly a place where we just vanished the place of rising ourselves up. I'm not saying it doesn't happen all the time, but if we are intentional enough, gradually the practice would make you much better conversationals. Second thing, what we saw, rambling, which means we are giving the other party reasons to reject your request. Usually this happens because we are trying to fill the silence. Why we are trying to fill the silence? Because we have just made the statement and the other person is open for thinking, questioning, whatever they are, or probably they are lost in their own thoughts. So we are giving them the reasons by overthinking, by thinking on behalf of them. That is the rambling part. So what we discussed about this is we have to say the statement and then we have to end our statement with a question. Just tell just say the other person like what is it, and then say what is the process for this or what how to go about it. You know. So when you say that, that gives a place to the other person to fill in the silence with the proper things, and it makes you also calm. Okay. The last one is power of pause. Ask clearly and then stay quiet. Let them respond. So basically, whenever we talk about communications, this is the most important thing which comes in place. Power of pause. If you ever listen to any good speaker, a person who speaks publicly, even if you have visited to something, some platforms like Toastmasters or somewhere else, you must have seen them. They take a pause of 3 to 5 seconds. They don't just ramble again and again into certain things. There is a pause. There is a place to think. Especially if you are conversing virtually, it is more important to count from 30 to 1 before you speak your own words. Why 30 to 1? Because it gives an enough pause for the other person to think, to find the chat box and type it. and then press enter. The whole sequence takes more than 45 minutes, 45 seconds, by the way, but 30 seconds is for you to slow down your brain because your brain, before even uh, they try to respond to it, are processing mentally and technically, right? So digitally, this is again something which is needed to be practiced. The power of pause is very strong. So physically, you can see the person and then you can wait, but virtually, it would be a little bit more as compared to the physical one. Okay. Now we'll come to arena number two, which is personal boundaries. Now, when I was asking about the friends and family and saying no or confronting them, the most difficult thing to us comes is feeling guilty for saying no. Okay. And while we even have to put that boundary or say no or just point out whatever is not giving us a happy emotion, it feels like we are insulting them. But why do it come? How it became a part of our lifestyle or our personal style. And these are the people with whom you are dealing since childhood. Still, you feel like it would be rude, it would be something where they get hurt. So, what do? You'll give a big excuse. You know what? This time this is happening, so I cannot come over there. And gradually, they also know that you wanted to say no, so they'll also make faces saying like, okay, fine, yeah, okay, okay. You know, so those are the things that usually happen if you are not able to confront the person. For example, you wanted to say no to a weekend plan or an unreasonable favor they ask. Your brain screams that time. They will think you are rude if you say no. Give a big excuse so they aren't hurt. Yeah, it happens all the time, no? This is the first way you approach to things, especially when you don't want them to see disappointed. But you are fine with seeing their disgusted face even if you are not saying. Basically, if somebody have to get hurt, that is their choice of getting hurt. But I'll not go over there. Let's try to fix it from a systematic approach. So you give a long, complicated story about how busy or unwell you are, and what happens? What happens then? Are they ready to accept your excuse? Maybe not. You give them a chance to argue. Arrange just for 1 hour. Come on. This happens, right? And when this happens, say to your brain, shut up, brain. Saying no is not a crime. A boundary is not a request for permission. Keep it simple. I won't be able to make it. I need rest. Let's catch up next week. So no longer excuses needed. It is something which needs you to understand from where this is coming. So before I move forward, although it was not a part of this, but I know a lot of people are suffering, and I have made another video for this, why this happens. But I want to give a little bit idea about this. So that guilt is basically not a guilt. It is something which is installed in us when we were child. So we always wanted to make our parents or our family members happy because there are two ways of looking at them. One is good, one is bad. So we always wanted to be at the good side. So we try to validate our feelings, our opinions, our emotions, everything from the good side. If we are not getting the good, we would be punished, we would not be rewarded, we probably have to suffer the silence. So many things many families do. So our childhood uh, makes it a learning for our adulthood. And then we forget that these people with whom we are feeling guilty of saying no and not no are not our parents, or probably are their parents, but still we are not enough. So we don't recognize that the child inside us have learned that way as we have not outgrown that. So to outgrown that, it is very, very easy. It is starting from one single line. And once you did that, you probably shiver at once because your child is not ready. Your own inner child is not ready for this, but it would make it easier time by time. So gradually, simply saying no to things which are not very convenient and not very close to you would help you a lot. And as I said, keep it simple. Simply, you can say, I won't be able to make it tonight. I need rest. Let's catch up next week. That's it. Why, how, yeah, no, nothing is needed because that is your excuse. It's not them. There is nothing about them. Okay? Your no is about them. The rest of the things are all about you and they are not interested in you. Okay? So what we do over here, personal mistake, we explain too much out of guilt because our brain sense it as a guilt. Second is the excuse trap. We keep giving the long excuses, and when we do that, we invite people to negotiate with you. Okay? Then they'll negotiate, and whatever no you have said, what doesn't matter at all because you have not straightforward said no. You are looking around the bush, and they are just trying to buy it off, not buy it off. Clear boundaries. When you state your decision clearly without begging for permission, that is the place where you find yourself at peace. Okay. Coming to area number three, handling sudden life pushback. So someone calls you out in a meeting or a challenge. You work in front of people. Your heart starts pounding very, very fast. Your brain screams, answer immediately. Speak fast. Otherwise, you look weak. Does this happen to you? It is as simple as going to a restaurant and asking them, like, okay, I want this and that, because that is a place where we try to make a good impression. So if you are a person who doesn't go much to big restaurants or a very fancy place, and suddenly you went over there and you are sitting, you are trying to make an impression to the person next to you, and you will say, and suddenly uh, the person comes to take the order for you, and you are still in conversation, you are still thinking, but your body is talking differently. It is shaking, the shoulders are like hunched, and so many things are happening which you are not able to control because you are trying to look calm, but your body is speaking and overthinking. You are thinking like you have to rush to speak, otherwise you lose the control. Does it happen to you? So when you feel that sudden heat, you can tell yourself, shut up, brain. Fast speaking is not confidence. Slow is powerful. Now imagine a villain in a movie. The hero is very, very pushy. The hero, if you talk about a hero in a movie, they are pushy, they are being chased, they are motivated, they raise their voice, and give a very, very loud energy. And that is the reflection of anything. But when we talk about a villain, they give a very sarcastic smile. They'll move their hands slowly, they keep their hand on the ground, they'll bend a little bit forward, and then will take a deep breath, and then they'll speak. They are not loud as hero. What is happening over here? What do you feel? The hero is ready to take the battle in, but the villain is calm. Do you think that way? No, you think the villain is powerful. Why? The power is with the hero, but the villain, while having that calm energy, is still looking very, very powerful because slow is powerful. Okay, so let's try to conclude this. Physical reaction. The physical reaction whenever we are trying to speak faster, our heart rate increases and it helps us to rush towards the words, which also initiate blabbering. Speaking quietly does not, speaking quickly does not make you look confident. Instead, speaking slow, you'll always remember this villain style, right? They'll always speak few words, use their hand gestures, move their shoulders pretty comfortably that nothing can make a difference to their life, whoever the hero is. They don't shake, they don't shiver, because if they do that, then whom the hero is fighting, they are already scared. Try to be having that energy when you feel like you are overthinking. You are the villain. You have all the power in the world because hero has to fight with you. So that kind of reverse psychology could also help you to calm down at those moments where your overthinking brain is trying to fight with yourself. Pausing for 3 seconds gives you an authority and composure. That's exactly what I said about the villain part. Okay, so now time to put this into practice. What I'm doing right now is I'm giving you two scenarios. You can choose one of those scenarios and write it down. What you have to do is just listen to these scenarios and then you have to pause this video and write it down. The most important thing is it should be less than 30 words. Okay? Less than 30 words. You don't have to explain much. What is the activity? Choose one of them. Okay? The first one is about work. You have to talk to yourself in mirror and say you cannot do their urgent work because your hands are full. So imagine if you are doing it with your friend, you can do it with your friend, and if there is no friend, just imagine that the person in front of the mirror is the next person who came to you asking for a work to be done urgently. Okay? And what you have to do is you have to say no to them. How? You have to say, I cannot do your urgent work because my hands are already full. Okay? This is what you have to do. Now you have to imagine that you are in that situation and the person in the mirror have really, really urgent things to do. So they are trying to convince you, they are coming up with another things to buy out whatever you are trying to say to make it more impactful, more important for you so that you will not say no, but you only have to say no. You have to say, I cannot do that work. Got it? So your words, your conversation words should not be more than 30 words. Okay. Another option is personal. Now, this mirror thing again you can do, or you can practice it with your friend. And you are saying them because you guys have made a plan and you have to say to them, canceling plans at last minute repeatedly is not cool. Got it? Why? Because you know if you are okay with whatever they are doing, then they'll keep doing this. So now this is enough, but you have to say it in less than 30 words and you have to say, see, cancel his plans at last minute repeatedly is not cool. And that's it. You have to practice it. You have to complete this opening statement in less than 30 words. Now do it, pause this video and come back to this video after practicing this for next 2 minutes. See you soon. Okay, so now we are here with something more important. By the way, how your session has gone? Were you able to utilize less than 30 words? Or your brain was screaming 30 words are too short, explain more. Then you have to say this to your brain. Few words, more power. State the problem, state your point, and stop. Your partner or the person to whom you are talking will push you back realistically, but you have to hold your ground. Calm your sentences. Okay? This is the key for every single thing whenever you are trying to practice any. Now, if you want to practice any new, as I said, what you can do is you can always find a place where, for example, if you are on a sales call and somebody calls you to buy some loan or overdraft or I don't know how many spam calls come, then you receive a call. What do? You say no, sorry, not interested. Or you just cut the phone. This is what you usually do. Now I am giving you this option. Just let them, and they are so much, they are into their work. So what you have to do is you just have to say no, and you don't have to listen to them. So you'll receive the call and try to create a boundary by saying no without explaining it, and be respectful. Okay. Now try this. This is really annoying, I know, but this is also a very good practice where you're not hurting the other person also, but you already get to know about how you respond to the even the things which are not important to you, how you deal with them. But my promise to you is for next 1 minute while talking to them, you are not listening to them also, neither disrespecting them, but simply saying no without over explaining it. Okay? Pretty easy. Try it. Okay. One thing also I wanted you to write is whenever we are doing these kind of practice, you have to write it down. What was the hardest part about stopping at 30 words? What was your hardest part where you felt like, oh, cannot do it. I'll just cut this call, or I cannot confront this person for more because they are pushing so much that I am ready to surrender if they say one more word. Yeah, that is what you have to write, and that is a place where you understand what is stopping you. Because if you know what is stopping you, you're always ready to correct it. You'll try to make small improvisations to it. But to identify that moment is much more important than working on it. Okay. Okay. So the last point over here is more about the practical tools which we can use in real life, especially for the overthinkers who think that immediately I cannot do anything. Now I would usually say drop the key. This is the most important thing. But in the normal psychological language, I would say physical emergency brake. How to do that? When a stress hits or your shoulder tightens or your jaw clenched, your voice goes high, the brain thinks it's danger. Okay. Sometimes you have found yourself or a child when their mother is scolding them and they are saying like, I have not done this. So they start very slow, but if the person is shouting on them or trying to push them back, then they start raising their voice and they'll shout and they'll run everywhere, right? Then what do you have to do in that situation? Especially when you are an adult, you will not do that. But obviously, your voice, the pitch would increase, and your brain would think, oh, this is a danger. I don't have to do that. Just pause for a minute, just pause for a second, and try to find yourself in there. Even initially, what could happen is you have already gone that way, and then when you come back, reflect because that is something intentionally you have to choose how to deal with that. So you have to do a 2 second body reflection. Understand whether your shoulders are hunched or your jaw is clenched. Your feet are relaxed on the ground, or you have already shrunk your fingers or toes. When you calm your body, your mind will calm down. So basically, the mind body works out the roots like this. When we try to listen and use one sense more dangerously, our rest of the body reactions helps it to stay and convey that message externally by clenching it all. So we can do it another way. So we have already felt that way when we are sensing it. But if we release the clench, if we release the clench, then our mind also calm down. So our mind would not gradually drains out the danger alarm which has been raised in our brain. When you start practicing it, you start practicing the relational signals of relaxation, and that creates a safety in the brain. Another tool is three sentence formula. Now, when I give you an example of the work activity what we were doing before. So the first point in three sentence formula is acknowledgement, then stating the limit, and third is alternative or next step. It reduces the power of no which you are feeling inside you. Okay, because the other person doesn't know what you are going to say, but you know what you wanted to say. Okay, how do we do that? So if somebody comes to you with an urgent work, you'll say, I understand this is urgent for you. However, I cannot take this up today as I'm finishing my monthly work. I can look into this tomorrow morning, or you can check with XYZ, whichever works better with you. So now see, these are the three things what we have done. I understand this task is urgent for you, which means I acknowledge that I listened to you. I heard you. Okay. Number two, however, I cannot take this task today as I am at the finishing, I'm finishing my monthly work, which means you have stated the limit. Like I'm already into something. And the third step, I can look at it tomorrow morning, or you can check with XYZ, whichever works better. Which means you have given them an alternative. You have not made yourself felt harsh, and you also try to stay in line with your own resistances, which can make you feel weird about the situation. But make sure it is not any more than one line. We are not doing the work virtually. Because if we are not there, what we'll do, this, whatever works well. And I'll tell them, like, okay, if you are talking to XYZ, I'll tell them this. No. You just have to give them a next step or an alternative, like, I can see this tomorrow morning if you want, or you can check it with the other person, but I cannot do it. I'm not available to it. Alternative steps, right? Okay. Now the point over here is, if anything goes beyond this, you just have to say yourself, these sentences are enough, stop talking. The final one is all about reset questions. So basically, whenever certain things happen, we try to defend everything, every single point. So if somebody tries to ask and question you back, then you have to ask them, okay, what exact problem are we trying to solve here? Or else you just reset whatever is there, because they are trying to question you or trying to offend you on your boundary. What you'll say, help me understand what is your main concern is. So what you have done, instead of replying back, instead of defending yourself against the emotional attacks, you have asked a question which forces them to focus back on the actual issue. Okay. It usually happens when you try initially to say no and people are not prepared for it. And there are certain people who are very good at manipulating and strategizing to fit in. So you don't have to defend yourself. You always come back with a question and ask the question, which forces them to focus back on the actual issue they are trying to solve rather than laying the emotional attack. Okay. All right. So this is all about today's session, and I hope this was something which is useful for you. If you have any other questions or you think these kind of sessions would be helpful for you, you can always find me on Meetup, where I have a community of more than 3,000 people, and I take regular sessions around this. Or else you could have a one-on-one conversation. You can find the link of both of those things into the description box. Thank you so much. Have a good day and just say, shut up, brain. You are good enough. Thank you so much.